Yesterday, I attended a Toastmasters meeting and I did something that is a breach of my foundation. It violated the second principle and rule that I was brought up to observe, non-negotiable. But I broke it. So what did I do? I spoke about my feelings. And why is speaking about your feelings so bad? Because I was brought up during an apartheid era, and in an Indian household you were told that you never let the family down. You could be having the biggest screaming match at home, but when the doorbell rang, you put on your best face and you smile as if you were the happiest family on earth. A friend used to tell me that he hated his mother and his sister did this and he was so angry and hurt. And then he would pause and ask me how I was doing, to which I replied, I'm good, I'm great, I wasn't good, or great. You see, rule number 2 was that you do not let the family down and you do not talk about your feelings. And Ethan reminded me yesterday that the chances of any one of us being alive is 1 in a billion. So, if you're on Earth right now, in a race that started with 1 billion at the starting line, you are the one who crossed that finish line first. There are no mistakes. But this is rule number 1 that I was brought up with. Vivek, you are a mistake. You were not planned. Your sister was just a year old when we found out we were going to have you. We were not ready for you. And perhaps you too were told similar words. Did it mean that I had terrible parents? No. I had the most loving and caring parents. Parents who were young and living in a country deeply enshrined in a system that was meant to keep them down, meant to tell them that they were inferior and they would never escape the grip that poverty held over them. Parents who, like other parents in the neighborhood, were battling to just pay the bills and keep food on the table. So, I was a mistake. But here's the thing, God does not make mistakes. From the day I was born, from the moment I opened my eyes, I had a level of seriousness in me. It was as if I took my first breath and I knew that I was in for an uphill battle. And maybe my parents saw that resilience within me and they backed off from giving me what every parent says to their child the minute they hold them in their arms for the first time. What I said when I held Ethan and looked into his eyes for the first time. You will have the childhood that I always wanted, but never had. Long story short, but this is what I am told. My mom told me that when I was in the cot, I would get up in the middle of the night and say, turn my back.
But let's digress for a moment and explain why Indians are in South Africa. If an average person lives for say 60 years, then my great-great-grandparents would have been here in 1846, which is 180 years ago. In 1843, the British arrived in South Africa, and in 1856, South Africa was annexed as a full crown colony. The British found South Africa as if it needs find it. Prior to that, there were no British or Indian people in South Africa. So what happened? In 1833, the slavery system was abolished and the indentured labor system was introduced. Indentured labor was another form of slavery. People worked and had to sign contracts in return for food and a small wage. As the British travelled into northern Natal at the time, now northern KZN, they found sugar plantations in places such as Tongaat and Furlang. Then, they discovered a way to extract sugar. This involved manual labor and the planting and harvesting of the sugarcane. Manual labor involved people working the sugarcane fields. So, let's pause there. The work needed to be done. People needed to do the work. People were here, white, black, colored. But the reason they did not want to do the work, reason, nobody knows. It was beneath them to work in the fields, or heaven forbid, they were too lazy to work. So the British decided that since they had also conquered India, and they knew that the Indian people had a reputation for working hard, they brought Indians to South Africa to work the cane fields in northern KwaZulu-Natal. 4 generations back, my great-great-grandparents. They arrived in 3 ships, the first of which was called the SS Truro, which landed in South Africa on 16 November 1860. 342 passengers abroad. This is what punctuated that journey. They were told that at the end of 5 years, they would be given land and that they would be recognized as citizens of South Africa, which did not happen. In 1913, we had a Native Lands Act. In 1936, we had a Native Trust and Land Act, not to mention a Group Areas Act in 1950. So, when were non-white South Africans first legally allowed to own land anywhere in the country? Answer: 30 June 1991. This is when the Abolition of Racially Based Land Measures Act came into force. Now, a topic for another day, but the system of capitalism that we all live under today is underpinned by land ownership. Non-white people do not have the right to land ownership. They were lied to about the length of the journey. Many died on that trip due to arduous traveling conditions, lack of food and water and adequate sanitation, as well as the spreading of diseases. About 1/3 of the people were women, who were put to work alongside the men. When they arrived, they were taken straight to the sugarcane fields and put to work, even though most were in a fragile condition due to the length and conditions of the journey. They lived in swamp conditions. Children were put to work as soon as they turned 5. They faced unfair and inhumane conditions, such as long working hours, poor meals, being whipped if they got up too late being after 3 a.m. If they tried to escape, they were caught and beaten, and their 5-year contracts, for what it was worth, was extended to 10 years. They signed contracts not knowing what it meant, because they were illiterate and could neither read or write. They dropped straight into an apartheid system in South Africa, a system which endured for almost all of the 19th century, a system of segregation, a system which had signs on park benches, beaches, land areas saying no Indians, black or coloureds allowed, whites only. Movement was restricted to certain areas. Indians were forced into only areas designated by the government to be appropriate for them. And today, we have Chatsworth and Phoenix being the largest settlement of Indians outside of India. And we are not a large part of the South African population. Today in South Africa, there are less than 2 million Indians out of a population of 60 million South Africans. Only 3% of the total population, most still concentrated in KwaZulu-Natal, pockets of which who have moved up to Johannesburg in search of career advancements in the financial capital of South Africa. And remember, under the apartheid systems, Indian children received an inferior education as opposed to their white counterparts.
So, why now? Why this level of emotion that brings tears to my eyes even as Ethan and I recite the story? Because we have a responsibility. I have a responsibility. Because there's too many out there who are unaware. You see, God and me, we have a bond like no other. He knows me and I know him. Personally, intimate, all in. Because I do not accept the norm. I push back and I fight. I fight for what's right. I fight for my rights. Because if God said that he will be with me, then he will be with me. If God says ask and you will receive, then I ask and then I expect. Results being that my life is littered with miracles, life-changing, unexplained miracles that will make your jaw drop. Case in point, when I completed matric, there was no money to study, not 1 cent. And then, after I reminded God that he owned all the money in the world, I got a bursary that paid for all 4 years of my studies, BCom, CTA, board exam, and then chartered accountant, to which I added a CIMA, an MBA, a RPE, CTM, and 2 levels of CFA. And here's the thing, I'm not one of those who is naturally gifted. I do not just get things. I'm not one of those who you could wake up at 2 a.m. in the morning and give them an exam and they will get 90%. If I don't work, don't study, I will get 2%. And yet I excelled in the business field, a field that I did not even think I was called for. I wanted to be a doctor, but God had other plans. But I digress. The reason for this video is about feelings. Feelings which, if you express them, will bring healings. And if you don't, then they will build up within you. And they will not just implode, they will explode. I speak of humble beginnings. I speak of being brought up in a world where we were taught a foundational principle of a white person will always be superior to you. Each of us are skyscrapers. Each skyscraper has a deep foundation. In my foundation is the cement that says a white person is superior to me, whoever they may be. It could be the secretary coming in to take the tea order, or the administrator in the meeting, or the director in the boardroom. If they say something, then an invisible switch within me clicks and says, you better listen because they are right, even though you know they are wrong. For example, if they say that equity includes deferred tax and it includes goodwill, it doesn't. And you have to be strong enough to take on sometimes the most aggressive person in the room and have your say. Words escape you, eyes are on you. The corporate world is one of the most ruthless environments that you will ever have to face. It is not a nice place. It is abrasive, and a chain of command needs to be followed. You never speak above your boss, even if he is wrong, even if he has no clue as to what he's saying, because he has no qualification, just experience. Experience to run a business that is entrusted to him because of the color of his skin. He is a business leader and you are not. He has the title of head and you have the title of manager, or if you are very lucky, maybe senior manager. I have seen it firsthand. I have seen a young, promising, brilliant actuary who lacked only two things: confidence and the ability to speak. He was designated a manager. His boss said he would always be a level 10 and he would never get any higher in the company. The boss, level 12, with an economics qualification from many, many years ago, one which did not seem to matter because he did not seem to know anything about business. Instead of opening new businesses, which was his job, he was an expert at closing them. And his plan for the future, he told everyone openly. He had one more promotion left in him. That promotion would then make him a director. So, make no mistake, for those going into the business world, that world will frustrate you. It will hold you back. It will have you banging your head against a brick wall. The plans that you have for being promoted are not the plans that your boss or the company has. Incidentally, the boss that I speak of has left behind a trail of young people who fell out of the business world due to mental health issues. And his chastisement, his punishment, was that he was given another young, promising, highly qualified person to do all the work and to report to him, the executive indicating that they had utmost respect for him because he had a reputation for getting the most out of people, even if they fell off the mental health cliff. Another young person is reporting to him right now, and his position of head is firmly cemented with a thumbs up and green light from for his management style from the powers that be. The corporate world does not reward empathy. The higher up you go, the less empathy they want. They do not want a boss telling his subordinate to go home and pick up his sick child from school. That would be counterproductive. They want that boss to say to you, stay here and finish your report before you go anywhere. A topic for another day. Now, the reason that I am saying what I am saying, in addition to helping young people whom I have a passion for, is this. One of my best friends whom I served articles with at one of the big 4 firms has left our country. We chose different paths, and he is now a chief operating officer at one of the top very large entities in the UK. We share a sense of humor. We share resilience because we both became chartered accountants. It was a friendship and a bond that I have with him that was made in heaven. We are closer than brothers. I can WhatsApp him at any time of the day, any time, and he will respond within the next minute. But there is one thing that we do not share. It is an openness. It is an ability to speak out, to wear your heart on your sleeve, to talk about the past, to express feelings. He can, I can't. Even though we shared the same feelings, even though we served articles together and became chartered accountants together. So, having been appointed as Chief Operating Officer in the UK and reaching a pinnacle of success, he did not gloat. He did not ascribe it all to himself. He too has a deep faith in God. He participated in a conference and he did a talk to youngsters in the hall called From Humble Beginnings to Global Leadership. He talks about being brought up in Chatsworth, going to a public school where we saw only other Indian people like us. We did not go to the same school. We lived districts apart. We did not know each other. But when we joined the Big Four firm a few years apart, we were destined to know each other. He talks about how he used to go on out of town audits and the white clerks refused to share a room with him. He told just a part of his story to the Chatsworth Times and to the Post in KwaZulu-Natal. And when I asked him if I could share his story, his immediate answer was absolutely anything to inspire the younger generation. And do I have stories like that too? I do. I could tell you about how I would go to a new client as the audit manager and I would take a white vacation student with me, someone who was in first year of university, studying BCom, just completed matric, who got a vacation job part-time for the holidays and was allocated to assist me on the audit. Me, the audit manager, because I passed the board exam and completed my training contract and was a chartered accountant. And the client would talk to the white vacation student as if he were the chartered accountant. I could tell you how we had Friday social functions in the boardroom where we all gathered together, and you could draw a line, and on one side were white people, and on the other side were the non-white people. But in fairness, we fought against that. We as the new clerks formed a squash league, and we all met at the squash courts together, and we played each other as if there were no color. We fought against segregation. We defied the odds. We tried to shake off insecurities, and we tried to build a confidence which we knew we needed to have to survive in the corporate arena. He better than me. But here's the thing, life is a relay race. Each of us run our leg, and then we hand over the baton to our children, to our sons and our daughters. We run out of poverty. We run out of despondency. We run out of a world where Indian people were seen as smart, but were educated to become bookkeepers and shop stewards, not chartered accountants. We did, but many did not.
Yes, we lived in a world which was not so many years ago. In South Africa, which we had different education systems. A world where the government spent up to 10 times more on the education of a white student than on a non-white student. Where every system was separated and where poverty ruled. Your future was determined based on the color of your skin. A world where there were whites-only park benches, beaches, buses, everything. Where non-white people's movements were restricted, passbooks had to be carried, owner of land was against the law. A Group Areas Act, Chatsworth and Phoenix being the largest settlements of Indians outside of India. A Group Areas Act that was only repealed in 1991. Even though we are less than 2 million people in a country of about 60 million, about 3% of South Africa's population, there were things that happened in our country that our parents, grandparents, and great-grandparents endured. In 1953, Hendrik Verwoerd, the Prime Minister of South Africa, famously said in Parliament, "What is the use of teaching the Bantu child mathematics when they will never use it?" There was signs saying, "No dogs, no blacks, coloured or Indians allowed." Signs saying non-whites must use the back entrance. But now, let's get this one point crystal clear. Nobody is saying that white people do not have a difficult time in South Africa today. Nobody is saying that white people do not find it difficult to find a job. We know that it is difficult for a white person to find a job. And how do we know? Because in the South Africa that we live today, it is just as difficult for a non-white person to land a job.
I spoke to a fellow black chartered accountant and he told about how He could resign on a Friday and have a new job on the Monday. That was between 2000 and 2007. That time is long gone. Now, chartered accountants are sitting at home waiting for a phone call that will bring a job. A phone call that does not come.
Our country is grasped in an endless economic crisis. We have 32.7% official unemployment and a staggering 65% youth unemployment. For those of you who are in a job and complaining about your job, consider that there are 10 people wishing to have your job. So, this is a message for non-white people to encourage you, and this is a message for white people to encourage you. None of us can answer for the sins of our forefathers or our great-great-grandparents who came before us. They ran their leg off the relay. They did what they did. They were allocated their time and they passed on the baton. Most succumbed under the weight of a burden. Some didn't, but understand. That metaphorical baton you are holding in your hands. Understand that at certain times that invisible baton was used to crush the spirit of someone else.
This is your time. This is your race. And unbeknown to you, when I asked God, why me? Why was I born in South Africa? Why were my parents and grandparents born in this land? Why am I a third generation, fourth generation South African? God, I could have been born anywhere. Australia, Canada, India, Indonesia, France, Germany, anywhere. But here. Why South Africa? And God's answer was simple. Because I want you here. Because you were born for a time such as this. Even though you lay in a cot saying turn your back, and no one would, I did more than just turn your back. So, I do not know where my journey will take me. All I know is that I have found my purpose only recently. That purpose being to inspire, to motivate, and to teach, and to warn, whilst also to make you smile. I am finally on the path to my purpose. And a word of encouragement, each of us are different. Each of us have different talents, skills, and abilities.
For one thing that is common in our purpose is that it involves people. So how are you faring in the feat of changing lives and of imparting hope? Because that is your purpose, and you will never find true happiness unless you are doing your God-given purpose, which involves people, which involves your son and daughter. Maybe turn the TV off, put the Wi-Fi off, and gather in the lounge and have the discussion. Tell them about their grandparents. Tell them about how you grew up. Speak from your heart. The days of parents being distant from their children needs to be gone. Parents cannot surrender their children to social media and an algorithm that feeds fear and anxiety. Be real, have the discussion, and if tears flow, then let it flow. If a war against complacency, in a war where everyday children hate their parents more and more, you need to start fighting back. The same resilience that is in you lies in them. They need to find it, and you need to show them how. And if you didn't, if you messed up, if you are ashamed, and now you are ruled by a boss who is intent on keeping you down, whether you are white or not, then share that story too. Will someone one day stand up and say that they changed direction because of what you said, or did, or even didn't do?
This has been a brutal narrative. Why did I have to mention a past where people were treated as dogs, where incidentally white people at the time went to church regularly on a Sunday morning and came back treating their helpers as slaves, treating them as if they were nothing? How was that possible? It was possible, because the churches at the time found scriptures to say that one group was superior to another. One group that was sitting in church was blessed, whilst the other, who was at home cleaning the house and tending the garden, was not, and that they were ordained to serve them. Same Bible we read today, same scriptures we quote today, different interpretation. Incidentally, that is why we have so many denominations, even in Christianity: Methodist, Anglican, Catholic, Pentecostal. Hopefully, they all now preach equality of the same God who created us all equally. He gave us different outside characteristics because He is a God that loves variety.
Our blood is red and our feelings and emotions are shared. And why is this message and this rhetoric so urgent?
Because in the blink of an eye we can go back. I hate to say it, but I've never found a white person in South Africa that says they liked apartheid. Everyone hated it.
We are a rainbow nation and we all love each other. And apartheid is a thing of the past. It died 32 years ago when Nelson Mandela at his inaugural speech said, "Never, never and never again. In this beautiful land will one person be oppressed by another." Beautiful words that killed an apartheid that still lives today. It lives behind closed doors. When you close the door of your home and speak derogatorily about another group of people because of their race, you don't have to call your young children and give them a lesson about how superior they are because of the color of their skin. They hear you when no one else can. They sit in their car seats and they take in the narrative.
Case in point, we used to live in a province which will not be named, but it does not have many black or Indian people. A province where we lived for 7 years, and it almost killed me. No, it did kill me. Ethan went to school in grade 1, and because they were not used to seeing Indian people, they were confused and started bullying him because he had straight hair but was not white. A place where if you are not part of a clique, you will never be part of their clique. A province where people hate each other and just tolerate each other. A province that is beautiful and many love to visit and go on holiday. But a province where the best is reserved for rich foreigners. A place where I controversially say, if you want to go back to the old South Africa, move there.
And God said, "You were born for such a time as this." And God said, "You will never be tested more than what you will bear." And God does not make mistakes.
But maybe he did. Maybe placing me in this country was a mistake. Because you see, in that relay race that you are running, it is a marathon. It is not a sprint. My friend and many like us, we had to sprint to overcome odds, which said we will never be chartered accountants. We will never be well adjusted. We will never escape poverty. We sprinted. We came from the back of the pack, as have your parents. But there is something about a race. If you sprint a marathon, you are doomed to tire and to fall. The circumstances become too much. The hurt becomes too much. The memories become too vivid. And it causes you to sometimes think as you look back, wow, that was too much for one person to carry on their own. And you gasp for breath as you feel your knees buckle under your weight, as everything becomes blurry. But maybe your great-grandparents also felt that same weakness in the heat of Natal as they cut the sugarcane plantations. But I will sprint on. Why? Because I have a baton to pass on to my son.
And the urgency of this message is this. America has had independence for over 250 years. They have not gotten racial equality rights. We are a young democracy of only 32 years. How are we expected to get it right? And in America, ICE agents are targeting people because they look brown, shoving mothers to the ground while her teenage daughter screams in terror, putting people in cages and yanking a baby out of the hands of the father whilst he is having a fit. ICE agents who shot Renee Nicole Goods in the face 3 times at a 90-degree angle and then preventing a physician from helping her as she bled out. ICE agents, 5 of them, who beat Alex Pretty for trying to help a woman who was being attacked. Agents who then shot him 4 times and then shot his lifeless body another 6 times. 10 shots in 5 seconds. ICE agents who a year ago lived happily next to their brown neighbors and smiled and greeted them, now patrol the streets looking for whom they will attack next because of their skin. It did not take long for them to turn to this level of evil, this level of hatred. We see actual videos of how vicious and brutal and heartless these attacks were. It did not take long. It turned on a dime. A year ago, it would have been unimaginable to put people in a cage And today, the same people who couldn't imagine it are called ICE agents with masks and guns. Did they need much convincing, or were they just lying and praying for an instruction to spread hate? And now that the instruction has been issued, they are seeking the next brown person to forcibly remove from their land.
There are good white people in our country, some of whom are my best friends, but make no mistake, there are many, many people in our country who are completely oblivious to the history of our nation and to the circumstances that your parents, grandparents, and great-grandparents grew up in.
Let them motivate, let it inspire you, and build a resilience in you. This is your race, this is your time. You get to leave a legacy and you get to make a difference. That difference should not depend on the color of your skin. This message is to inspire non-white people. This message is to inspire white people. Be the change you want to see. With 65 youth unemployments, we are definitely reaching at least one of you. Don't be part of the statistics. Don't live in our economy. Live in God's economy.
Let's move onwards and upwards, black, white, Indian, and colored, a true rainbow nation. Incidentally, the province which is the financial capital of our country, where many have moved to seek career advancement, is, in my view, one that embraces racial diversity. We seem to be getting it right. We need to continue and be an example for the rest of the country. This is not meant to polarize, and everything we have said is factual, yet many will take offense. And if you do, instead of voicing and typing abuse, use your energy to tell us about your experiences, your background, your family history.
Your foundation is as a skyscraper. Do you have all your ducks in order? Do you have words of advice that can help instead of hurt? Do you too have things that were taught to you that were wrong but were right at the time? If you are not encouraged or inspired as a white, black, colored, or Indian person, then spare a thought for the one who is, the one who stands on the precipice of a career, the one entering the corporate world, and the 65% hoping to enter the working world. There are so many things wrong in our country, but perhaps there are so many things that are wrong in the world we live in too.